Time now for Vikings Fan Line on the Minnesota Vikings Radio Network. Your chance to talk about today's game with the Vikings broadcast team. Add to the conversation on Vikings Fan Line by calling 651-989-KFAN or toll free 1-800-320-5326. Now it's your reaction to all the action. Vikings Fan Line. Here's KFAN's Ron Johnson and Cory Cove.
A frustrating, long loss for the Minnesota Vikings. They lose 27-24 to the Cincinnati Bengals in overtime. I'm Cory Cove from the Power Trip Morning Show. There's Ron Johnson. Hi, Ron.
How's it going?
A very frustrating game for multiple reasons, right? Horrible start, a billion penalties by the Vikings in the offensive line. Then, look, give them credit. They clawed back. They figured it out, tied the game. We actually got a Vikings kicker to do something when it mattered. And then the overtime controversy with the fumble that wasn't a fumble that ended up costing us the game.
Yeah, the refs always find a way to screw the Vikings, and it took to overtime for a controversial call, but it came. His butt definitely was down.
Right, hard to blame the officials when, even though the Jefferson call I disagree with as well because I thought he was in, but clearly the Vikings punched it in one play later with Dalvin Cook, so that didn't really cost us anything outside of a timeout and a challenge. But in terms of points, it didn't cost us anything. But this is one of those weird games where did the Vikings deserve to win? Well, maybe not, right? Because they had a billion penalties. Right. But then you could argue it and say, well, then did the Bengals deserve to win? Because you let the Vikings back in it. So when you are borderline field goal range in overtime and Dalvin's butt hits the ground and the ball appeared from about 5 different looks to still be in his hand, and they looked at it for 10 minutes and still got it wrong. And again, the Jefferson thing, what camera angles is this freaking billion-dollar industry not getting? How do you not have way more cameras to make sure you get this right? Because I think they butchered both of those reviews.
Yeah, we'll never know what they can see. They won't show us exactly what they're looking at. They claimed all this technology that they're syncing up and they can see both angles. And I think the one person said there wasn't a clear down the line shot of the end zone, which is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Stop right there though for a second, because I asked these guys when we were watching the game that exact question. That I get there's a whole bunch of cameramen that are filming the play. Yeah. If you're the NFL and every franchise is worth multiple $1 billion, you have to have permanent 4K, 8K cameras on the goal lines regardless of where the play is. I don't care if you're at the other one. The other end zone should have goal line cams round the clock. How are we not doing that? Is the NFL not doing that?
No, I agree. And I think we talked about the field goal cameras where there should be some kind of camera from the below angle to see where the ball crosses and if it goes through, if it's wide, because we've had that where it's really, really close and it's above the goalpost and they can't tell if it's in or out. Like lasers or something. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff.
Get a ring cam. Wait for Black Friday in 2 months. Everybody in the metro now has 6 ring cams because they wait for Black Friday. The NFL is just, I don't get that. So again, this is one of those very strange games. We can sit here and I'm sure we will take phone calls and people are going to complain about the reviews. And I think those 2 reviews specifically, absolutely, I think the Vikings got screwed. Is it the reason why we lost? No. It's one of the reasons, but it's definitely, there are so many flaws in this team. There are so many things to point at. Clearly, the penalties killed us. The offensive line play killed us. The play calling killed us. Kirk checking it down all the time killed us. So many reasons why we should have lost, but they still were on the brink of winning.
Right.
Just a crazy, crazy game. Ryan in Omaha. Hi, Ryan.
Hey. Yeah, I'm here.
Hi. What do you think?
Well, I'm going to switch my game up to next week Arizona.
Yeah?
Yeah, how are we going to beat them?
Okay. Well, I mean, if you saw what Arizona did today, right?
Correct.
I mean, Kyler Murray
all over the place.
is on fire. So our defense, specifically our secondary, who looked very shoddy today, right? Bashaud Breeland gets benched. Cam Dantzler doesn't even dress because I think they've given up on him. What a weird just day for the secondary in general. But they have their hands full next week. Burrow was okay, ish today. Murray was on fire today. That's going to be a problem next week.
Yeah, Kyler Murray, that's a totally different conversation than what happened today. I mean, this is a quarterback. Again, the first game, guys working together. I think Xavier Woods looked good. I think Harrison Smith looked good. I think Patrick Peterson, for the most part, looked good. Yeah, Bashaud Breeland, that 2-minute offense or whatever, 4-minute offense, whatever happened. I think it was a 2-minute offensive play. I don't know if he thought, hey, they're going to keep dinking and dunking to get to the end zone. he was looking in the backfield. It was man to man, whether it's cover 4 or man. Either way, you're deeper than the deepest. Right. And he got caught looking. I mean, that's what happens. You're not the guy to make the tackle. You're the guy to make sure your receiver in your area does not go deeper than you, and he fell asleep.
Look, I think you can sum up this loss, though, with offensive line, and Rashad Hill shouldn't be in the game, right? Ezra Cleveland was a bust at tackle. I have no idea if he's going to be able to play guard or not. Bradbury is just a very average pick for a first-rounder. I don't think he's great. I don't think he's awful. He's somewhere in the middle, but he's definitely not worth a first-rounder. Oli Udoh's not ready. So you have one reliable guy, right? When your 2 top lineman pick, your first-rounder, Christian Darrisaw, and your, third or fourth rounder? What was Wyatt Davis? A third rounder? I forget. Rounder. You got 2 of your top 3 rounds didn't crack the lineup, right? I mean, Rick Spielman clearly drafted those guys because he knows we need help, and those 2 guys aren't available yet.
Yeah.
That's
just
super
like Justin Jefferson, though. Justin Jefferson as a rookie, Stephon Diggs as a rookie. I feel like Wyatt Davis, we know Darrisaw would have started if he was healthy. Wyatt Davis, I feel like week 2, week 3, they're going to get him in there. They have to.
You almost have to.
Because, Oli is not showing you anything where it's like, oh, man, he deserves to be in there as a starter right now. He hasn't. He's been holding. He's been getting absolutely beat. And the Bengals defensive line was okay. They weren't great. And then it's going to get better and better. You got the Cardinals and then the Seahawks, which have 2 really good, not only inside pressure guys, but just stunts, linebackers that like to blitz, twist. And if he can't really keep up with the Bengals were really basic, I felt like today. It wasn't a ton of stuff where you're like, man, that's an impressive defense. It was just, I'm bigger than you and I'm a little bit better than you, and I'm going to show you that. The Seahawks, I mean, if you watched the Seahawks game earlier, their defense, because they would show highlights, on the red zone deal, but their defense moves a ton, and so I just don't think he should be 325 2 Sundays from now. It's got to be Wyatt Davis on the inside.
651-989-5326 or 1-800-320-5326. You can also reach out to us on Twitter, #KFAN Vikes. And if we see a tweet or a take that we think is interesting, maybe we can attack it that way as well. #KFAN Vikes. Vikings lose 27-24 to the Cincinnati Bengals in overtime. They fall, of course, to 0-1. That's Ron Johnson. I'm Cory Cove, and this is Minnesota Vikings football.
It's 1st and 10. Cousins under center, offset eye left, goes to Dalvin, room to the right side, but then he's encountered and stopped immediately. Bengals saying it was a fumble. Dalvin, you did not fumble, did you? Dalvin? Waiting for a signal. Oh, Cincinnati got the ball.
The ruling on the field is a fumble recovered by Cincinnati. First down.
33 yards. 24-24 in overtime. 5 seconds to go. Snap spot. McPherson's kick is good. And the Cincinnati Bengals have defeated the Minnesota Vikings in overtime. 27-24.
Welcome back to Minnesota Vikings Fan Line. You just heard PA say it. The Vikings do lose in overtime 27-24. That's Ron. I'm Cory. We're taking your calls and reacting to the Vikings loss. This is Minnesota Vikings Fan Line. Ron, whether it's email, Twitter, social media, meat sauce, there's a whole bunch of people already saying fire Zimmer. For Zimmer and Spielman, they are still half lame duck coaches and GMs, right? They have those kind of tweener deals.
Right.
We've seen Zimmer go through some coordinators. What happens first, or what's more likely? That Zimmer kicks Clint Kubiak to the curb and says, I shouldn't have trusted Gary's son? Or do you think the Wilfs at some point, if this gets really, really bad, just say, look, we got to blow this thing up?
Yeah, the tough thing, you can't put it on Clint right now. The procedural penalties, were the offensive linemen. So that doesn't go on Clint. Now, can you say that's a little bit of Dennison not being around, not wanting to get getting vaccinated, so he wasn't really there to kind of build it, and then all of a sudden you give it to a, last minute, hey, guy, you're my offensive line guy, because there's not a lot of guys out there looking for a job right now. You can blame it on that. I mean, honestly, you could blame it on Darrisaw not being healthy. You can blame it on Wyatt Davis not being ready to start. If Rick Dennison was able to get his hands on him and be on the field with him, could Wyatt Davis have been ready? We know Darrisaw no, because it's the groin, but could he have gotten Wyatt Davis up to speed? Because if you're saying athletically he's better than an Elflein, better than a Bradbury, allegedly, he should have been ready. But again, we're forgetting all this stuff that happened in the offseason. So is it a Mike Zimmer thing? No. Is it a Clint Kubiak thing? I don't think so. I definitely think there needs to be a little bit more to this offense. Like I saw a lot of wrinkles by Zach Taylor that I wish Kubiak did. You know, again, he called all the games in the preseason from the field until Zimmer was like, get your butt up in the booth. Like, this is not working down here. Guys are talking to you too much. So, you know, was that a learning experience being in the booth? Like, I mean, there's a lot of factors in there that we can't go there. Defensively, can you fire your son? Probably not. You're not going to fire your son. If you fire Edwards, you have to fire your son. So defensively, they can't do anything there. So I just think right now Zimmer might have to go down with the ship. Like the way it's set up, there's no real scapegoat right now. Besides the fact that the offense did what they did to put them in position, the defense kind of like helped so the offense struggled early, defense held on 7-14, and then vice versa. The offense started picking it up and the defense started making mistakes. So they got to put a whole game together, and I think that's the only thing we can say right now.
And there's no worse excuse than, well, it was 3rd and 22. We don't have a play in the playbook for that. Well, then get one. Right, if you're this young, new, up-and-coming coordinator,
I don't know if
have
anybody
a play
has a
for
3rd and 22 play.
Somebody should. It's not that hard. We used to do it in Madden. Cy Amundsen, live from Cincinnati, Ohio. Hi, Cy.
Hey, guys. Everything's just going great down here.
I'm going to assume you were not at the game.
I was not. I was not at the game. I decided to melt down in the comfy confines of my rental property next door to a Bengals party that was happening outside in their lawn. So they had one of those big blow-up screen TVs.
Yeah.
And after the fumble, I was like, I don't want to say distraught because that makes me sound pathetic, but I was distraught. And so I walked out on the lawn, and the entire Bengals group of fans were like, don't worry, dude, you got this. Like, they were cheering me up. And then the bottom fell out. And I'm with you, man. Like, I don't understand how, and now here's where I turn into a fan instead of a guy who's just trying to project with humor all the time. Like, how do you have this gigantic industry, like you say? Like, you've never gone to a mansion that's guarded by an owl. No, they have nice video cam. Like, the fact that we're this far down the line and entire fan bases and teams and organizations are having the trajectory of their seasons shifted by calls that seem like they could have been made the other way is it's bananas, man. It's almost comical.
Yeah, and I've seen a couple of tweets and a couple of emails too saying that that Dalvin fumbled. And again, I guess we're going to have to agree to disagree. But I mean, I the first couple of angles I thought were bad, but when they zoomed in on the one, I thought it was very clear. And I think Mike Pereira, even on Fox, said the same thing. I believe he used the phrase rear end. I was saying to the guys here, his ass is down. Like, you can see that Dalvin still has his hand on the ball before the guy absolutely rips it out. It's a 1/10 of a second, but I thought it was pretty conclusive that his butt was down first. But again, what do I know? It's one of the 7 or 8 reasons they lost, but it's definitely one of them.
Well, that's the other thing too, man. I get it. I get if you're like some uber dad who coaches 7th grade football and your motto is one thing didn't lose us the game. But still, it did. Like, I don't care. I don't care if you played the worst football game of your entire life and you had a chance to win at the end and a ref blew it or a call blew it or something happened. That's still the reason. There's other reasons, but it is the reason. I don't get on board with that mentality at all.
Yeah, right on. Thanks, Si. Appreciate it, dude.
Miss you, buddy.
Cy Amundsen. Greg, Las Vegas, Nevada. Hi, Greg.
How you doing, man?
Great.
I called after the last preseason game, and I was hoping I would not have to make this call, but I was afraid deep down that I was going to have to make this call. And I think 100 yards of penalties in the first half. That's because Zimmer's team is not ready, and I believe they were not ready because they didn't play together in preseason. And I called 2 weeks ago to stress that, and lo and behold, here we are. And I'll keep it short. As far as the Dalvin fumble goes, hey, you know what? He still let the ball go, and it cost us the game. I'm making the trip down to Arizona next week, so hopefully we can get things together and get the ship righted. Thanks for taking my call, man.
All right, thanks for the call. I disagree with almost everything he just said, but still, he's got an opinion, and that's fine. Again, the whole, he let go of the ball thing. Well, right, but if his butt touched first, it doesn't matter if he let go of the ball. We all want him to hold on to it. If his butt touched first, then it's not a fumble.
That's why the Gophers coach, P.J. Fleck, always tells the guys, give the ball back to the ref.
Yeah, I get it. And again, that's a cute little catchphrase. But at the end of the day, if the rule says if you're down, you're down, then it wasn't a fumble.
But it works. It's a mental thing to remind you to hold on to the ball.
But let's go back to his first point about Zimmer not having him ready.
Yeah.
I mean, does it matter if C.J. Ham plays 1,000 preseason plays or 0? Those were weird false starts, right?
Yep.
If Oli Udoh doesn't play 1,000 plays in the preseason, would he have still jumped on that guy late? You can say Zimmer didn't have him ready. That's a cliched excuse to throw the coach under the bus.
These guys get paid a lot of money.
Exactly.
The coach does not have to have them ready to go.
Right. They know what holding is. They know not to jump on that guy late. They know to wait for Kirk to have the ball and for the snap. So, same thing with Dennison. Could you say, well, if Rick Dennison was there, vaccinated, would they have done all these things? I don't know.
Yes, I think so. Yes, if he's on the field, it's a different mindset. But coaching from a tablet.
But again, would Oli Udoh have jumped on that guy if Rick Dennison was on the sidelines? Who knows? I mean, who knows? They're professional athletes.
I don't think so. I think Rick Dennison would have struck fear.
It's a thing that all fans do is point to the sidelines and try to blame somebody on the sidelines for a guy that made a bad play.
That play to me, though, that's another bad call in my opinion. Dalvin Cook is still fighting for yards, and the guy is still holding on to his leg. You are allowed to lay on a guy to stop him from tackling your player. It just, the fact that Dalvin was hit the ground, then he hit him, it was kind of a bang-bang. Like, that happens where you're trying to free up a guy. Like, if they if they haven't blown the whistle, offensive linemen can run into the pile and move it forward. So, that's something that is allowed, but I see what they're saying is for the safety of the player laying on the ground. It looked like it could have been a vicious play. I mean, we can't say intent. He's not a guy that in the past has, done this to guys, so we can say he's that type of dirty player. But no, I think the refs for the most part, they got most of it right. Some stuff, yes, they got wrong.
Yeah. More of your phone calls after this at 651-989-5326 or 1-800-320-5326. The Vikings lose to Joe Burrow and the Bengals in Cincinnati for week 1. That's Ron Johnson. I'm Cory Cove, and this is Minnesota Vikings football.
Now, Joe Burrow had 3 rushing touchdowns last year despite playing just 10 games. He goes back to pass, bounces in the pocket, throws to the end zone. T. Higgins uncovered, touchdown Cincinnati. Xavier Woods, the closest guy to him, he was about a mile away. So Burrow to Higgins. Cincinnati has its first touchdown of the 2021, and it's 7-6 Minnesota. Kendricks threatens blitz from the A-gap, backs off, now he comes. Burrow, straight drop, deep shot, chase, got behind Breland, caught, 10, touchdown! Joe Burrow to Jamar Chase, 50-yard touchdown, and sadly, because he's on our team, they're working Bashaud Breland, who is on his back, writhing in pain, sadly. 13-7, Cincinnati.
And man, Ron, I think you said it earlier, but Bashaud Breeland just kind of step for step with Jamar Chase on that just straight route, right? There was no wiggle to Jamar Chase's route. It was just, I'm going to run straight. You're going to run straight with me. I'm running 3/4 speed. You're not going to notice that I make it 100% speed, and then I'm going to leave you in the dust. And that's exactly what Jamar Chase did. Speaking of the preseason, right? He had the drops.
Yep.
All preseason long. He's saying, don't worry about it. I'm just trying to adjust my eyes to the NFL footballs. And he gets a 50-yard touchdown in his first game. I mean, he figured it out. It's not the end of the world.
Oh, yeah. And it was funny, his first catch, the crowd cheered like we cheer for kickers when they make a field goal.
Right.
He had a tough go at it early. He was, probably a little bit more tight and tense than he should have been. And yeah, he got it figured out quick. Like, the kid's good. We knew he was good in college. He had a better day than everybody was like, oh, Justin Jefferson, he had a better day. Like, they both play well, but he had the better day.
Well, I mean, if you want to feel good, though, I mean, at least the Saints are crushing the Packers at halftime, right?
Yeah. Man. And the Browns-Chiefs game, player gets into a fight with a coach.
The Saints are up 17-3 over the Packers in Jacksonville. Remember, because the Saints had to move because of Hurricane Ida, so that game is at half 17-3, and I think the Packers have run something like 2 plays in Saints territory in the first half.
Yeah,
something crazy like that.
It's not going their way. Jameis Winston had a great red zone touchdown to the back of the end zone to I think either a receiver or tight end. Sean Payton is a QB whisperer. Like he, for some reason, has figured it out. Everybody was down on Jameis Winston, and he's doing well. And for Vikings fans, they can be happy because I tweeted out earlier today, who would you rather see lose? Saints, Packers? Most of the people picked they'd rather see the Packers lose.
It's always the Packers.
I think that right now the poll says like 27% of the people picked the Saints to lose. Yeah. So probably Packers fans.
Let's go back to Cincinnati because Gabe Henderson from the VEN is there. Paul Allen is there. Ben is there. We'll get their quick reaction to the Vikings losing 27-24 to the Cincinnati Bengals. Gabe?
Well, 27-24 is the final score. We are in a dungeon here in the Cincinnati Bengals locker room. Well, outside the Cincinnati Bengals locker room in PA. I'm not even going to do a formal intro. I'm just going to ask you, why do you have that shovel in your hand?
Vikings fans, before you get all weird and twitchy, recognize the shovel is not to be used for shoveling dirt on the grave of an entire season. We've only played one game. Secondly, the shovel can be used to dig out from an easy 0-1 hole. That's all I got.
Well, it was hard to dig. It was hard for the offense to dig out of the first. I'll just put it this way: it was hard to dig out of the first half. 10 penalties, 91 yards. These are just accepted penalties. We finished the game with 12 overall penalties, 116 yards. Ben, your thoughts?
I mean, the thing that you want to do as any team, you come out the gate in the first game of the season, is you're looking for you guys to play fast and play clean. And we did none of those. We might have played fast at times, but we did not execute. It's hard to execute when you penalize yourself that much. Offensively, we have that many third and long situations as well. They definitely did not give Clint Kubiak the schedule of plays that he was looking for. There was no flow to the game, so it was even hard for him as a first time play caller to all of a sudden now, I got to already go for a 3rd and 12 call here. Right. So overall, you can't spot that any team in the league, that many penalties and that many yards in the first half.
And when things settled in the fourth quarter, Kirk caught fire. I mean, he looked great. Conklin, great grab. Adam Thielen working on Eli Apple. So, I mean, stuff looked normal and fast near the end. Just wasn't enough.
Yeah, that last drive of the fourth quarter, I think we went 68 yards. We kicked a 53-yard field goal. Greg Joseph did. But, Ben, I got to talk to you about this defense in the second half. They stopped running at our interior defensive line. They started running sweeps, outside zones, not running towards the Michael Pierces and Dalvin Tomlinsons of the world. 124 rushing yards for the Cincinnati Bengals offense. Your thoughts on our second half run defense?
I mean, good adjustment by them because they did not get much in the first half, and we came out in that 3-4 look with the 2 overhang players and took away a lot of their perimeter run game. And then they made the adjustment to attack the perimeter now in the second half. So it was that chess match that you often see in football games, and hats off to them. They stretched us out and cut it up, in the wide B and C gaps, and that worked. Yeah. And that worked. So, but at the same time, 6 points. Defensively, you give up 6 points in the second half. That should be good enough to win the game.
It should be, and I'm glad PA put the shovel away, so hopefully we've dug ourselves out of the hole and getting ready for Arizona Cardinals next week.
All right, thanks, Gabe. And again, I think Chandler Jones have, 5 sacks today? So we keep talking about Kyler Murray and the problem he's going to be next week. How about Chandler Jones?
The Chiefs gave the Vikings problems last year, too, with that line, so it's not an easy one.
No.
Maybe Dennison to get the shot.
Where'd PA get that shovel?
I don't know, but Norton's going to end up sitting on the shovel.
Yeah. 651-989-5326 or 1-800-320-5326. Ron and I are going to be taking your calls for a little bit here. Fan line goes for another, hour and change or so, and then overtime's after that. So a lot of Vikings coverage yet to come here on the Fan and our affiliates all over the upper Midwest and the great country of the United States of America. More of your phone calls after this. This is the KFAN Minnesota Vikings Radio Network, driven by Polaris.
Score, 6:45 to go in the first half. Cousins back to pass. Fastball right. Caught! Touchdown! Cousins to Adam Thielen, and the Minnesota Vikings have taken a 6-0 lead. It'll be 4th and 4 from the Cincinnati 24. We trail 21-7, 2.5 minutes to go in the third quarter. Thielen in motion to the right. Cousins shotgun, Dalvin by his side. 2 receivers right, 1 left. Big blitz by Cincy. Pass over the middle. Caught Thielen on the run. 15-10. Touchdown! 24-yard touchdown by Adam Thielen. The 41st of his career. And it was Mike Hilton who was beaten on that play. And it's 21-13. Cincinnati.
Ron, a couple of aggressive fourth down calls by both coaches, right? One by Zach Taylor, one by Mike Zimmer. A lot of people on Twitter, I understand, are results oriented, but I got to say, I loved both calls. I know when you're up 21-7 and you're on your own 30 or so, old school mentality is to punt the ball.
Yeah.
But the Bengals were rolling. They had a ton of confidence. And I think Zach Taylor is a perfect example of these young coaches understand game theory 101, which is don't give the other team the ball at all costs. That a punt is still a turnover, right? In a weird way, it's a 30, 40, 50-yard turnover, but you're giving them the ball back. These young guys understand the power of possession. And if Mixon doesn't stumble, then Zach Taylor looks like a genius. But he trips, and then the Vikings stop him, and they get the ball back. Well, then Zimmer had a similar decision, right? It's 4th and 4. It's go time. What do? You're kind of in no man's land, and you find an Adam Thielen touchdown. So, Taylor got hammered on Twitter going, what an idiot! Yep. You're up 14 and you're on your own 30. What are you doing? What he's doing is understanding math. I love that call. It just didn't work. If you do that 1,000 times, though, in the long run, I think it's the right play. I think it's the mathematical right play. It just didn't work in this instance. But it almost came back to bite him, but the Vikings go on to lose 27-24 in overtime. Yeah. Your thoughts on those 2 fourth down calls?
I like Mike Zimmer's. I don't like Zach Taylor's.
Why?
You're up 14. That's the exact point. You make the Vikings drive longer. Figure it out at that point. I know you're same deal. What can we do? Can we take a bunch of, Belichick, take a bunch of delay of games if the clock, I'd have to look back, see if the clock's actually running at that point, because I know that's happened where it is running. So you take penalties to take more time off the clock and then you punt. That was the old, I think Mike Vrabel did it to Belichick and he figured it out. Stuff like that. I'm just not a fan of that. But yes, if Mixon doesn't trip, then he looks like a genius. Yeah, but I just, being up 14, I'm playing the clock game. I'm going to try to run it out and make the Vikings have to go as far as possible to score, and don't give them any momentum. Don't give them any okay, we can do this, guys. We're in this. I just wouldn't have. But Zimmer's, you have to do it at that point. I mean, 4th and 4, you don't really know what's next, how many times you're going to get a chance to get the ball back, and then I honestly, I think, because I know I heard the check with me stuff on the broadcast, as if Kubiak or one of the coaches on the sideline is kind of, Kirk's still looking over to wait for that 15. I think it's 15 seconds you have you can talk to your quarterback in the helmet. Yeah. So perfect coverage. All right, run the play. And then he goes to the line. Adam Thielen's one-on-one. It is a perfect matchup. But yeah, Zach Taylor, I'm not a fan of his. Okay.
Matthew in Mankato. Hi, Matthew.
Hey, how are you guys?
Fine. What's on your mind, man?
So my question is, I don't want to do an overreaction Monday, but penalties aside and the replays aside, I don't want to get into that. That shouldn't be a thing. But my question is, special teams was phenomenal, which is a good feeling. That's a good safety net to have. But is Cousins and Zimmer, are they built to lead this team, or is the chemistry just done and over with?
All right, what do you think, Ron?
I mean, they not live together. Sorry, they've been working together lately. Zimmer said this is the first time Kirk Cousins has asked him to watch film together, to watch a defense and do stuff. I thought that was strange. The fact that the head coach and the quarterback had not sat down and just go over film. And he said Kirk asked him, whatever Detroit English is asked, but asked him to do it. I'm wondering, why wasn't that a thing before? Is there truth to some of the stuff where Zimmer and Kirk, Kirk could feel Zimmer didn't want him here or whatever it might be? That to me, and now it seems like one of those forced relationships. Let's try to make this thing work. Like Zimmer said, we talked. I told him how I felt about what he's doing. He told me what he feels about it. And then we left it at that. That to me doesn't sound like a resolution. That sounds like somebody's going to sleep on the couch. It just doesn't feel like they came to a conclusion. And so, yeah, this might be it. It might be if this is not comfortable because you hear coaches all the time talk about their quarterback. The Rams, Sean McVay is in love with Stafford right now. You're not seeing the same thing everywhere.
Yeah, this is one of those polarizing games again for Cousins, because you look at the box score. Let's say you didn't watch the game, right? 36 of 49, 351, 2 touchdowns. You'd say, hell yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah.
The weird thing about watching the game, if you're a Cousins hater, is he was never really spectacular, right? No. Out of those 36 completions, there were 3 or 4 you're like, damn, that was a good throw. The rest of it was just
blah.
Yeah, just kind of blah.
Yeah.
And
that's what his career has been. It's been like
load
the stats up.
I agree.
We've seen some of you like that
We've
stuff,
seen a couple of games where he just looks like a gunslinger, and he's got it. A lot of games are like this. If you aren't 3rd and 26 a bunch, Cousins looks a lot better, right? I mean, he definitely was against it today. I get that, but this is a perfect example of two different groups looking at the same box score and finding two different conclusions.
If you have to dial down into it, to be perfectly honest, we know what Zimmer's defense is gonna look like. Like, it looked really good at times. There's some issues in there. I mean, this is a new, because I tweeted a picture of it. It's a new 3-4 look for the most part in some instances where they are actually putting a nose tackle over the center. So he is a cock nose and he's two-gapping the center. We have not seen that from Zimmer. Like, that's only in the 5-2 when he has to do that. But this was a true 3-4, 3-down lineman. Daniil Hunter was standing up, and then the outside linebacker was standing up, and then Nick Vigil and Eric Kendricks in the middle. So, Zimmer said, look, I've been thinking about doing this. I think when he brought in Dom Capers, because Dom Capers did that with Jacksonville. That was his thought with Dom Capers. But then you have the COVID year, and none of the guys that he could do it with played. So it's like, well, Dom, we brought you here for nothing. Like, thanks, but no thanks.
Well, and a great example of that, because I think kind of quietly, the real bright spot was Michael Pierce. Now, maybe the Bengals center just sucks because he ragdolled them twice and got 2 sacks, but man, Michael Pierce is enormous, and those 2 plays were great. It looked like that second one was going to set up a victory.
Yeah, and to get in my belly celebration. I mean, he's a big dude.
What a beast that dude is.
But he's strong. He's quick. He said it, though. He said it when he got here. He said, I'm the juggernaut. Like, once I get going forward, it's going to be tough to stop me. And he showed that. Like, he showed he can move a pile. He can hold 2 guys and make them go 2 steps backwards. Like, he wreaks havoc when he gets going. And so Everson Griffin played a lot of 3 technique, a lot of 5, the wide 5. Like, it's some stuff in there that Mike Zimmer has. Again, you can't unleash everything because you don't get every situation just yet. I think the Kyler Murray thing is going to get interesting. Like, I don't know if you want those big D linemen in there with Kyler Murray. You're probably going to see Ev in there in the 3 a ton with Sheldon Richardson because you're going to need faster guys. I think Zimmer made a joke, but you might see 5 or 6 DBs in the game with 4 linebackers and 1, and 2 down line. I mean, you don't know what you're going to get out of this thing. It's with Kyler Murray, you gotta keep him in there. But offensively, if you're going to nitpick, it felt a little vanilla. Like, it felt very, like, there was times where, like, oh, man, okay, here's a double reverse pass to Justin Jefferson. And then it was like, all right, hand it off. Line up, hand it off. Like, the Bengals even went unbalanced line at one point and had, like, 4 to 5 blockers on the line to the right side of them. Like, I don't know if Zimmer's not allowing him to do that or he doesn't have it in his playbook, but it does feel real like we've seen this before with maybe a few wrinkles.
Here we go. All right, at this point, we're going to let the network go. If you want to continue to listen to Minnesota Vikings Fan Line, you can find the iHeartRadio app and then just find KFAN. It's a free app you can download on your phone. I hope you have it by now anyway to listen to the Power Trip Morning Show and the rest of the fan broadcast day. But still, if you want to listen to Vikings Fan Line, download that app quickly and then 651-989-5326 or 1-800-320-5326. Next time we talk to the network will be 1 hour before the Cardinals game, which is next week. For Ron Johnson, I'm Cory Cove, and this has been the KFAN Minnesota Vikings Radio Network, driven by Polaris.
The Fan. Vikings Fan Line now continues on FM 100.3 KFAN and the Fan Radio Network. Vikings Fan Line on the Fan is presented by Comcast, Honda, Youngsteads, TimberTech, Carboni's Pizzeria, and by Shift Real Estate. To join in on the conversation on Fan Line, call 651-989-KFAN or 800-320-5326. Now it's your reaction to all the action. Vikings Fan Line. Here's KFAN's Ron Johnson and Eric Nordquist.
27-24, the overtime final, Paul Brown Stadium, Queen City, it's Cincy. And I'm Eric Nordquist in the seat for Cory Cove, Ron Johnson by my side. And we're going to take your calls here, leading you up to Vikings overtime. 651-989-5326, 800-320-5326. All of you on hold, we will get a chance to chat with you. Ron, I just listening over the last hour or so with you and Cory Cove, many opinions upon which have already been shared, but the way that I kind of framed up this game in my head was kind of the idea of don't overlook them, but if you're going to take yourself seriously as a contending team in late January, potentially February, who knows? You can't lose this one to the Bengals. They come out today. The weapons are real. Jamar Chase, that's a fun offensive team to watch. They stifle Kirk and company defensively at times. Just some overlying thoughts from what you saw today.
Yeah. For the most part, watching the game, the first half, it was all Bengals. It felt like the Vikings. I mean, yes, the Twitter machine, everybody was overreacting in the first half. Those same people got very quiet in the second half. Second half, you saw the defense step up. You saw a little bit more pressure. You saw Mike Zimmer doing some delayed linebacker blitzes. Everson Griffin started to kind of figure it out. Danielle Hunter finally woke up. So it started, and then, Xavier Woods, we saw the big hit from him. So you could tell the defense was starting to get it going. And then at that point, the offense finally woke up and you saw some runs here and there. But again, the overarching thing I noticed with the offensive line, they weren't making great holes for Dalvin Cook to burst through. It wasn't a ton of protection for Kirk. Kirk's got to realize that, though. How many seconds do I have to throw the ball? Well, not 5. So you gotta get rid of it, or you gotta know where your outlet throw is right away. It's almost like he doesn't. So I saw the one Justin Jefferson was covered, which he should have known the coverage. You can't throw a comeback into, I think it was cover 2 man. You can't throw a comeback into that, period. Unless Jefferson absolutely destroys the corner. The corner's trailing on purpose. He's not giving up the underneath because he knows he has a safety over the top. So some of that stuff for me was frustrating, where the coverage dictated where the ball should go and it wasn't going there. So that was for me what I felt like has to get better. But even the Bengals, there was one play I tweeted out where it was a bunch set, it was a fake go, and then the tight end shifted out wide. And what that did was that helped Joe Burrow see the coverage. When he went out wide, Eric Kendricks right away had to move and say, okay, I'm covering this guy. He could not stay in the A-gap anymore, because he did it a couple of times where he's in the A-gap and he covered the tight end, but the tight end stayed attached. When you detach and that's your guy, you have to show your cards. And so when he ran out there, Joe Burrow saw it right away. He's like, oh, okay, I'm going to Tyler Boyd, which Mackenzie Alexander should have had the interception there.
Yeah, actually, in fairness to what your point is, as sneaky as that shift was, it was covered.
Yeah.
And Mac needs to make that freaking play.
Yeah. And he didn't. Like Joe Burrow figured it out, though. Hey, okay, it's man, but I know where I'm going. It was like a man trap with the inside guys. And McKenzie catches that. It's a different game.
Absolutely.
And it hit off his chest and literally bounced right to the receiver. So when it rains, it pours, and that's kind of what it was like for the Vikings at times.
Yeah, certainly pouring rain at times today down in a otherwise sun-soaked Cincinnati Bengals comfy confines. To the phone lines, Terry has a question in relation to preseason. Welcome to Vikings Fan Line, Terry.
Hey, Nordo and Ron, how are you guys doing?
Fantastic. How are you?
Quick comments. You can't introduce 11 guys to each other in the first half of a regular season game and expect cohesiveness when they've played 2 series together in a preseason game 3 weeks ago. The preseason is to get ready for the year. Second quick comment, the Kubiak era, ineptitude continues in Minnesota. 4-yard pass on 3rd and 15, and it happened more than once today. And my third quick comment on the way out, Kirk Cousins could not lead a bunch of second graders to snacks at school. Thanks, fellas.
Thanks, Terry. The 2 points that he does make, I want your thought on that in terms of, because that's going to be a very popular point. Is,
preseason.
Dalvin didn't play, and what you saw out of Kirk in preseason, very limited opportunities, wasn't great at times. As a matter of fact, that's what I was asking you when I first sat down here during the break, is we didn't see any explosion offensively in the preseason, and then for the most part today, our best plays were shorter routes where an Adam Thielen on 4th down gets loose for the touchdown, and then even Justin Jefferson catching that one over the middle, and again, just athletes making plays, which is great. But in terms of the preseason now getting to see one regular season game, do you find any of that just knocking the rust off in that regard?
To a point. I can see his point about the 11 guys playing together. I'm less worried about the 11 guys playing together and more so the offensive line and Dalvin Cook. We know what receivers can do, what they need to do. The offensive line play has no effect on them as far as actual throw and catch. throwing and catching. Kirk and the receivers did their thing for the most part, in practice, in the scrimmage versus the Broncos, not the game, but the scrimmage that we all saw, during training camp. Now, the offensive line and Dalvin Cook, it's a different story because there's lanes that have to be hit. There's speed in which they have to feel in which Dalvin Cook's going to get to the line of scrimmage. How quick can we do this? If Le'Veon Bell was the running back, I don't think I'd be worried because we know, and this is Le'Veon Bell when he was at his best. He could sit behind a line of scrimmage for a second or two, let them block, move guys wherever you want to take them, and then I'm going to go. Dalvin Cook's not that guy. He has to get going. Once he gets downhill and he hits a crease, he's going to hit it hard, he's going to hit it fast, and then he's out the gate. There was no holes for him to hit today, really. I mean, the best runs were when he bounced it outside. That just looked like, hey, the line's clogged up. It's an outside zone. I'm taking it all the way outside. But that didn't look like that was a lane. Like the one he bounced outside and got absolutely rocked. It looked like he wanted to go underneath the tight end, but right away that linebacker kind of pushed him back, and the other linebacker fielded and closed the lane down, and Dalvin just is good enough to get out there. So, the offensive line and running backs together with the tight ends, I'd say so. But then again, Irv Smith's out, so there's that piece missing. Like Tyler Conklin's not Irv Smith, so there's stuff missing that we can't deny. But them not playing together as a one whole offensive line because there were so many like, hey, this guy's going to start here. We're going to try this guy here. We're going to move this guy here. I think they're right. We didn't know what the offensive line was going to look like, and if this is the offensive line for 16 weeks, I don't think they can survive. Like I just don't see it being as strong. And maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see this being the strongest possibility. They have to get Wyatt Davis in there, and I think hopefully Darisaw is not one of those week to week, and then we're looking at week 15 and he's still out.
Well, it'll be interesting. Udo getting that opportunity, winning a job, and then your first day on the job includes, a couple of penalties. One was ticky-tack with the unsportsmanlike after roughing or whatever they called it, that 15-yarder after the play. But you don't want multiple penalties in your first start in a big spot. To the Kubiak angle here, for me, it's very early to really decide the fate, the good, the bad, and the ugly of Kubiak. But I'm curious what you saw today in terms of our guys at times having trouble beating man coverage, because that was kind of a talker into the week, is that these guys play a ton of press man. And so ultimately route runners like Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson, like that's going to put them in some really good spots if they can beat those coverage, and that you would consider those to be advantage matchups, our guys versus their corners. And so the check down nature of a guy in Kirk Cousins, who I think he had 49 attempts today, maybe a couple of spikes in there, but those shorter passes and not getting downfield today, any part of that may be subject to the fact that we weren't beating that man coverage as often as we thought we could?
They didn't play man a ton, though. That's the thing. Like there were certain situations where, yes, I think when we had man, we beat it for the most part. But with Justin Jefferson, there was a lot of bracket. Like it was man, but there was a safety always kind of eyeing him up. I think most teams this year are going to say, you know what? We're going to let that Thielen guy try to beat us. We know what he can do, but it's going to take a while to get him going. Like he's not an over the top, take the roof off. He'll beat me on one quick strike. And I brought this up years ago with him and Stephon Diggs. It was the same principle. Stephon Diggs was a swift bullet to the head for your defense. You make one mistake, he's behind you, lights out, game over. Adam Thielen, it's like death by 1,000 cuts. He's gonna needle and not and swipe you here and swipe you here, and then all of a sudden you got 1,000 paper cuts and you're bleeding out. Like that's where I think teams are. They're gonna
sounds very unpleasant.
They're gonna key on paper cuts with squeezing a lemon on after that for this irritation. But they're gonna key on Justin Jefferson, and we can't deny that now. Like he took the league by storm last year as a rookie. It was too late to scheme him at that point. You just have to show up and say, hey, let's try to keep him contained. Now coaches have had they're getting a whole week of preparation, a whole off season of preparation, knowing they're playing the Vikings. Here's some coverages we use on like guys like Devontae Adams or guys like Stephon Diggs. Justin Jefferson's now in that echelon. He's the guy where you're like, how do I try to stop him? And that's what you saw. Like his comebacks, he wasn't wide open, where Kirk was kind of used to that last year. And so that's where the scanning the field has to get a little bit more natural for him. It's no more just like, all right, this is the play call. This is the guy that's supposed to be open. You got to scan the field a little quicker. And then you got to have that clock of, I was on this guy for 2 seconds. If there's not the guy here, I'm throwing it away. And we're not seeing enough of that. I think Eli Manning might have been the best at that, getting rid of the ball, knowing he can't run. Kirk Cousins has to develop that this year. I don't know if he can, though. So we might just be in store for, and Zimmer said it in his halftime interview, Kirk's got to get rid of the ball. We have to help him a little bit, but he's got to get rid of the ball. And that's
fair amount of that's on Kirk.
Yeah, that's from the head coach. He's holding the ball too long.
Absolutely. Dave, Mikey, Jevin, Eddie, and David from Minneapolis. You guys are on hold. 651-989-5326, 800-320-5326. We will get to your calls. Next segment, we're going to chat about the Liuna hardest working player of the game. It's a no-brainer for me, but we'll get Ron's thoughts on it as well. We got big man in the middle with a couple of sacks today. There were positives, but the biggest part that counts is that our favorite team lost the game. 27-24 on your home for Vikings football, The Fan, an overtime final today in Cincy. Your calls next. It's Vikings Fan Line, KFAN, and The Fan Radio
Podcasts.
3rd and 3 for the Cincy 42, tied to 24 overtime. Burrow, short drop, and he's sacked! Yes, he is! We hit that pick 5! Let's go, Michael Pierce! Let's go, big boy! It's a sack on Joe Burrow. 5 today for the Minnesota Vikings. And Cincinnati is punting. Any form of Viking score sends us back to the Twin Cities 1-0.
How about that? One of the bright spots in a 27-24 overtime loss for the Minnesota Vikings. Michael Pierce opts out in 2020. Comes back in. Big man in the middle. Let's stuff the run. New version of the Williams wall next to Dalvin Tomlinson. And he piled up with a couple of sacks today. Loving that. I'm Eric Nordquist, producer 9 to noon. Ron Johnson is with me, providing the analysis, Vikings Fan Line. Thanks for hanging out with us. 651-989-5326, 800-320-5326. Let's jump into the calls here, and we shall start with Jevin from Owatonna. Welcome to Vikings Fan Line.
Hey, Nordo. Hey, Ron.
Hey.
Before we start, I got a couple cheap shots to hand out here.
Okay.
Never thought I'd be egoed by Cory Cove on the phone. And I've been on hold so long, it feels like I'm about 2:30 at Common tomorrow. But
how about this game, though?
My big thing is Bashaud Breeland. Are we looking at an Xavier Rhodes light? It seemed every play he got burnt on, he kind of came up limping or hurt. What was it? 2, 3, 4 times he came up hurt after missing a tackle or getting burnt. I'd like to hear... Well, since Corey's gone, I got Ron's thoughts on the situation. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jevin. What are your thoughts on Bashaud Breeland? It felt like at times he got picked on a little bit today. They found some success against number 21. Your thoughts on his game?
Well, one, you can't disrespect Xavier Rhodes like that. Like, the man was a shutdown, Rhodes closed corner at his best.
He was an all-pro.
He was a Pro Bowler, all-pro, found a way to get it done with the coach last year.
There was some limping at times.
Healthy. But, yeah, there was some limping at times. But, yeah, don't disrespect him like that. But Breeland, I'm not going to say that. No, I don't think it's when he gets beat, he gets hurt. He fell awkwardly, it looked like, because he was hanging on to Jamar Chase, and at which speed in which they were moving, he fell. Either they got the wind knocked out of him or something. Who knows what it was? But, and somebody probably can ask him from the media. I just think he's learning this defense. Like, Zimmer is not doing the shut one side of the field down, everybody else play coverage behind it anymore. It looks like these guys are kind of basically playing cover 2. Like, Patrick Peterson got beat on the corner route in cover 2.
Yep.
Where not beat, he ran up on T. Higgins. And then Jamar Chase
looped it over his head,
runs the corner right behind him. Xavier Rhodes can't get it. That's the perfect play call for the perfect coverage. Like, it's nothing you can do. The only other way to do it is sink off and let him throw the hitch. Like, come up and make the tackle. And that was the big difference in Coach Gray when he was here. He called it, I forgot what it was called, but it was like take the air out of it. And so basically you give him 5 yards of air of space, and then the minute it's thrown, take the air out of it. Like, go meet him at the ball, and then you absolutely don't let him go anywhere else. I'm fine with the 2-yard catch, and that was a thought. It seems a little bit now like guys are trying to plaster guys a little too much before the ball's in the air and not realizing what they're covering. Like, if there's 3 receivers to your side and you're in cover 2, and we know he's a Pro Bowler, he's a Hall of Famer most likely, Patrick Peters has to get back into it. He has to realize, hey, look, it's cover 2. There's no reason for me to plaster this guy running a hitch. Like, I need to kind of play in between so that the quarterback doesn't feel comfortable throwing this corner route. And if he's dumb enough to throw it, I can pick it off. And I think that's it. Breeland, we'll see next week because he's going to get tested again and again next week.
And I do think he needs to be better. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, there was some lackadaisical plays. I think, like I said, Corey said it, the deep ball to Jamar Chase. That's just not paying. I was just thinking the guy is just running off the line and not realizing this guy's about to go into 100% speed in a minute. And he did it, and Breeland couldn't keep up. It was just that.
Absolutely. It is time, Ron, before we go to break, to unveil our Liuna hardest working player of the game. It could have been Michael Pierce with those 2 sacks. 149 yards rushing for the Bengals kind of nixed that. How about Adam Thielen? 9 catches, 92 yards, and 2 of these.
It'll be 4th and 4 from the Cincinnati 24. We trail 21-7, 2.5 minutes to go in the third quarter. Thielen in motion to the right. Cousins, shotgun, Dalvin by his side. 2 receivers, right, 1 left. Big blitz by Cincy. Pass over the middle. Caught Thielen on the run. 15-10. Touchdown! 24-yard touchdown by Adam Thielen. The 41st of his career. And it was Mike Hilton who was beaten on that play. And it's 21-13 Cincinnati.
Maybe Bengals fan line they're talking. I guess I don't know what they would say. Would they say Mike Hilton looked like Darquez Denard light today? Mike Hilton got pushed around the field a little bit today, taken advantage of. That is thanks to our friends at Liuna, the hardest working player of the game for me, Adam Thielen. Fantastic coming out there. You've mentioned, and that's going to be, I think, the biggest growth point for Justin Jefferson in this offense, talking about it last segment, is if they're going to bracket, if they're going to double. We saw it against Tampa Bay. We've seen it in instances where a few different teams have been able to effectively employ that.
Right.
And it's caused problems for Justin Jefferson. It was a problem at times when it was Thielen and Diggs as a tandem. And that thing's going to rear its ugly head at times this year and beyond. And but Adam Thielen found his way to the end zone twice today. Loved his game.
Yeah, and the slant route was absolutely gorgeous. I mean, the patience, the ability to set the guy up. And then the out route was just, he was stronger. Like, he pushed off pretty much, and he had the right to that spot, though. You can't just stand in his way.
Yep.
And the DB did a terrible job of sinking his hips and then absorbing the blow. He just fell to the ground, and that it is what it is. You cover Adam Thielen man-to-man in the red zone, it's probably going to be a touchdown. So.
Absolutely. Liuna, hardest working player of the game, Adam Thielen. Meanwhile, Aaron Rodgers has thrown 2 terrible interceptions on consecutive possessions, and the New Orleans Saints, with a pending extra point kick, maybe up 24-3 down in Jacksonville.
Yeah, 3 attempts, 2 interceptions. All last season, he threw 5. So he's already thrown 2 today.
Good for him.
Yeah.
27-24. We can't gloat too much. We lost today down in Cincy. 27-24, the overtime final. This is Vikings Fan Line. Couple segments to go, including your calls. Phil, Dave, Mikey, Kyle, Eddie, we got you. 651-989-5326, 800-320-5326. We will return shortly here. KFAN and the Fan. Radio.
Fan. Your station for Skull is FM 100.3 KFAN. The Fan.
Yards. 24-24 in overtime. 5 seconds to go. Snap spot. McPherson's kick is good. And the Cincinnati Bengals have defeated the Minnesota Vikings in overtime. 27-24.
That's the final from Cincinnati. And I've just been informed, final segment of Vikings Fan Line, KFAN and the Fan Radio Network. So I want to hammer through some of these calls here. I'm Eric Nordquist following Vikings Fan Line. It'll be Vikings Overtime. Saucy is waiting there on the other side of the glass, anxiously awaiting to hop in his chair, chat more about the Minnesota Vikings, bringing you up to a Sunday Night Football presentation. Should be Rams and Bears, I believe. But let's hammer into these calls. Ron Johnson, at 3Ron Johnson via Twitter. Is with me in studio providing the expert analysis. We'll go to Eddie in Michigan. Welcome to Vikings Fan Line, sir.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Thanks for taking my call. I just wanted to talk about the referee. I mean, it seems like the NFL is really, incentivizing these refs to, call fumbles, even when it's close, because they know that they're going to be able to rely on the replay review. And then once they get to the replay review, they either don't have the camera angle or whatever else, and so the call on the field stands. I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on that. I mean, it seems like, we want to rely on these cameras to make the calls for us, but we don't have the proper angles. And, it was pretty clear to, I think, everyone that was watching, that he was down. So I'll hang up and listen. Thanks.
Hey, thanks, Eddie. Yeah, that's a tough pill to swallow there in that moment. And that fumble, from my vantage point and the multiple angles, my vantage point being the television, like most people, he was down.
Yeah.
His ass was on the ground.
Yep.
His booty was down.
Yep.
So it shouldn't be a fumble.
Correct.
And I don't understand, similar to his point, and I don't know if it's incentivizing for the sake of then relying on replay, especially if we're going to keep having instances like this where if you put that ref's foot to the fire or whatever that pool report might look like, he'll explain, well, based on the angles that I saw. Well, based on the angles I saw, that had to be reversed.
Right.
And how hard is it to reverse that call? That's what it looked like.
Super
you know what I mean?
hard to reverse it. It's better to uphold it, and that's why you don't call that a fumble. You didn't call it a fumble. You blew the whistle, and you were coming up to a signal where it was down. Then all of a sudden, the Bengals jump up and run off, and that other ref runs in saying Bengals ball. Correct.
Yeah.
But he was on the other side of the field. The guy right there, when he puts his foot up, he's called it down right there because he did the down signal.
Yeah.
At that point, you let him, and then they did a little quick huddle, and then he gets overruled with the other guy and says, oh, yep, Bengals, and now let's go review it. No, leave it as down because you called it down to start. Be, man up and say, nope, I said it was down, it's down, and then let's go review it. And if he did fumble, then we give it to him. Because it wasn't because I know the rule is if it is a possible fumble, let the play out in case they score. Well, they couldn't score because they were on the ground together, and then the guy comes out the pile. So that's not the case there. You call that down, and then you go review it. That's how that sequence should have happened. And these refs are asking for all types of concessions and money and retirement funds and more money, and lifetime this. And we want to be able to fly everywhere. We want to have more refs on our staff. We want to be able to train year round, get paid year round. You're not acting like you deserve it. Like you guys are blowing games that really matter to some teams. This is going to come down to the Vikings. I think this game's going to haunt them. I think this is going to be one of those games where we look back and they're, 9-6 or whatever, and they're headed into, the last couple games, and we're like, oh crap, we could be 10-6 right now, with one game left and we're in the playoffs. And then it's like, nope, we got to win these last two versus the Bears and I think the Packers to go to the playoffs. So this is going to haunt them.
We'll go to, how about Dave? Lack of depth in the backfield. What up, Dave? Welcome to Vikings Fan Line.
Hey, Eric, Dave Ehrlich. How you guys doing?
Couldn't be better.
Fantastic. Yeah, very quickly, I got a question and a quick comment about Zim. So I think I'm a little concerned. Are you guys for the lack of depth in our defensive backfield? I'm feeling their guys were turned around. McKenzie and, all of them kind of were like big plays today. And I'm wondering if you guys are worried a little bit about the lack of depth. And the only thing I'll say about Zim is just probably not a bold prediction, but I think if it's no playoffs this year, which I hope will be in the playoffs, if it's not, I don't see him keeping his job. So I want to get your thoughts on those two, and I'll hang up and listen. Great job, guys.
Thanks, Dave. Lack of depth, your thoughts?
I'm not worried about the depth. I don't know if you meant depth, are they getting enough depth when they're on the field playing? Yes, they are not. But depth as far as number of guys, no. A guy like Cam Dantzler didn't even dress today. They have bodies. I think it's now learning Zim's. There's the problem. These young guys learned under a totally different scheme, for the last 2 years. And Cam, same thing. Now Patrick Peterson and Breland are here, and Xavier Woods and Harrison Smith, and you're like, all right, I'm going to change it up a little bit. I'm going to go 3-4 looks. I'm going to play a little, cover two, straight up cover two. We haven't seen a straight up cover two from Mike Zimmer and, ever, I don't think. So it's learning curve. Guys are having to learn a different defense than what they did. That's why I think Patrick Peterson was kind of okay, because he's used to it. I think, Harrison Hand looked really good on special teams. I think he's going to eventually be a help. What's his name? Chris Boyd came in and played. He did fine. The big plays were really just Rashad Breeland versus Jamar Chase. We should have just realized and stopped reading Pro Football Focus and letting Florio lie to us that Jamar Chase couldn't tell what a football was. We all fell for the banana in the tailpipe. We did. We fell for it. We all were out here, leave Jamar Chase open. He's going to drop it. No, this kid is good. We should have schemed him. We should have doubled him and let Tyler Boyd beat us. No, we trusted Mike Florio and let him tell us that Jamar Chase doesn't know what a white line football and a non-white line football looks like when it's coming into his hands and he's a first-round pick. We fell for it. We lost because of that as a fan base. You guys fell for it. Pro Football Focus lied to you. Or Pro Football Talk, not Pro Football Focus. Pro Football Talk lied, and Jamar Chase even tweeted above that. I never said that in his tweet. He called Floyer out. Stop lying, or whoever wrote that story. No, Don't lie on me.
Chase is going to be fine.
He's fine. He's good. He grittied on us, and Justin Jefferson did not gritty.
Yeah, that was painful.
Yeah.
Time for one last call, and then I'll get you out of here, Ron. Phil from Zimmerman. Welcome to Vikings Fan Line.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Pretty good. How's it going,
man?
Good. I'm just calling to actually give praise to the special teams today. I mean, I know I'd probably speak for every Vikings fan when I say when the last second kick was lined up to be kicked, I did not think it was going to go in. But with that being said, if that's the only bright spot in the season, all season long, do you think that the Vikings should maybe just tank for Hawks crank? I'll hang up and listen. Thanks.
There will be no tanking for anything. There's no point of that. Special teams, yeah, I agree. They did good. Harrison Hand has some big hits, some loud hits. The punter absolutely pounded the ball. He has a big leg. The Aussie, or Aussie, however you say it.
Very nice punt return from Dede.
Yep, we had a Dede actually caught every punt, too.
How about that?
But you know what? The one thing we haven't talked about is KJ Osborne. He silently was wide receiver 3 today and had a good day. 7 for 76.
KJ Osborne actually, and that 25-yarder he danced down the sideline on the conversion there.
KJ is year 2 for him is great. Great so far. Year 1, we were nervous. Year 2, he's like, look, I am wide receiver 3. He looked like the kid that was at Buffalo and was at Miami. Like, he looks good. I think he is 3. Dede's going to be 3 and 4, but Dede's our punt returner.
I dig it. Thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for all you do via Fan Line.
Thanks for having me.
And next week, these Arizona Cardinals.
Make sure you get that shovel, Nordo.
They just dominated Tennessee in Nashville, I believe. So they're at home, and we are on the road yet again, week 2. It's a 3:05 kick right here on the Fan, and it's going to be a 1 p.m. pregame on the flagship, the Vikings Radio Network. We'll join around 11, and hopefully the Minnesota Vikings will be 1-1. Kyler Murray, pain in the ass. 651-989-5326, 800-320-5326. If you want to try and call in and chat with Meat Sauce Paul Lambert, AJ Mansour, and yours truly, Eric Nordquist. We're here for another hour for Vikings overtime, 27-24. Overtime not good to the Purple today. They lose to the Cincinnati Bengals. 16 more of these things to go, and we're happy you're with us. Thanks for listening to Vikings Fan Line on KFAN and the Fan Radio Network. Stay tuned. Vikings overtime.